and sometimes you just mess it all up. So CBS 7 kickoff is deep, and it's going to be off the net. It's going to be grabbed by Isaiah Scott. Isaiah Scott makes one man miss the end zone.
Takes it to the near side. Scott, 25, 20, 15, 10, 5. Touchdown. Mike.
Walks it right in.
Play on that ball right over top of the defender. And more importantly, see the replay here. He put Caleb Smith in motion to Jonathan Banks. Just do a little swing pass, and Caleb Smith with the rest. There. He's got a lane in the middle if he can get past him. And he might be good for a touchdown. There it is. And wow! Trayvon Sidney straight down the middle. Pulls a move on the kicker. And he's in the end zone for about 60.
And we're back with another edition of the Arena Football Weekly podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Adam Pelletier. Joining me, as always, is Trey Sofka. Trey, welcome to another edition. How you feeling today?
I am great. Another great day that is one day closer to the kickoff of the IFL season. The indoor war is upon us, and I'm very excited to dive into a couple of these games that are happening this weekend, preview some of those teams, and get a taste of what's ahead for this upcoming year. It's going to be a good one.
No, we got a little appetizer last weekend with some NAL action that was enlightening. Some of it was exciting. I still need to find some time to go back and rewatch the Rougarou game because I was just like, this game's over. And then I look up and all of a sudden Trey's like, it's an overtime. And I'm like, oh my God, what?
Yeah, I thought it was over too, but I'm like, you know what? I'm going to ride this thing into the ground. And they came back and forced overtime. They almost did it, but yeah, that was a good game last week.
There you go. It's been a great start to the season. As always, you can head over to the shop. And Trey, we'll do it again this week. We'll do another discount code until midnight tonight, code IFL preview, and you'll get 10% off any of your Brews, Buds, and Ball gear over on the shop. I'll drop a link here in just a second. So just in case anybody's feeling so needed, we've had some people buy some stuff already. We recommend that everybody get some and help Trey and I get some brews when we go to our arena football games or indoor football games, all the 50-yard games.
Yeah. Join the cause here. Join the little family we're developing here.
And I know, Trey, you have a little giveaway happening this weekend, correct? Because you're going to be on the ground, right? On the ground in Fishers.
Yeah, I'm going to be in Fishers, and I've made it known that if you see me at a game this year, this is not going to be the only game I'm at. I'm going to be all over the place, but I've got stickers, and I've got sheets of stickers to give out to folks. So if you're at Fishers, Quad City versus Fishers this weekend, come find me. I'll be the tall guy, most likely wearing a polo. So come find me. You'll be able to see me. Might see me at halftime. I'll just give a little teaser on what might be happening this upcoming weekend. But come see me, come say hi, come chop it up. You'll get a free sticker and a pleasant conversation at the same time.
No, that's awesome. That'll be very exciting. So let's get right into it. We've got the IFL preview starting. We've got the IFL season getting started. So Trey, what are we starting? What are we looking at first here this weekend?
Yeah, this weekend is an interesting group of matchups for us to kick off this week one of the IFL season. And you've got a rematch of the IFL National Championship last year, which was absolutely electric over in Tucson. We got Vegas Nighthawks facing the Green Bay Blizzard. And then before that, we've got the Quad City Steamwheelers facing the Fishers Freight. So I think there's kind of two different themes when you look at both of these matchups. I think you look at Quad City and Fishers. This is a battle of the reloads where they're returning a ton of talent from 2025. Quad City was arguably one or two plays away from the IFL National Championship last year. Fishers was on a 5-game winning streak to end the year, and they're bringing back a ton of those pieces that made that happen. So you've got a couple teams that are reloading on Saturday, but then on Sunday, you've got the battle of the rebuilds, where Vegas had a lot of folks get promoted up to the CFL and the UFL, which is great to see. It's the whole point of the IFL. It's what the league wants. And Green Bay's roster just got decimated by a lot of their production going to other teams and other leagues. So these Vegas and Green Bay teams, they're going to be good again, but they're going to have to be good in different ways. They're not going to be able to lean on what made them successful in 2025. So it's two very interesting matchups.
Yeah, and that's been a big story for Green Bay over the past couple of years, has been how they've been able to develop and retain this high quality talent. You really think about Max Mailer's kind of the poster child there. His services were very in demand this offseason and was one of the most successful quarterbacks in the 50-yard games in recent years. You know, I'd be hard pressed to find many guys who are playing better than him over the last few years. So seeing him go and get that, you know, get what I assume is a bag from Arizona and getting this opportunity is really good. But it does leave Green Bay in the spot where they've done a good job of retaining and developing their hometown talent. To lose all that talent now this year really means this is going to be a team that's not going to look the same that it has the previous two seasons. And they're going to be, you know, they're going to have their work cut out for them, to say the least, up there in Wisconsin.
Yeah, I mean, they Green Bay over the past few years has always been good on the defensive line, and I think this year it's going to be no exception. They're returning a couple of key pieces on that defensive line. Looking at Sean Mustin, who is all IFL, all world arena and indoor player in 2024, had a chance to go up to the CFL in 2025. He's an absolute dog, and you know he's a dog because he's a lineman who goes out there with no gloves, no wristbands, no nothing. He's just bare on the arms, and you don't want to meet a defensive lineman that's looking like that in the A gap. Allen Henry coming back from last year, and they're bringing in a couple pieces from, well, not just a couple pieces, a lot of pieces from Bay Area last year, who was in dormancy this year. But they got 9 players coming over from the Bay Area Panthers 2025 team to this Green Bay team this year. So they're able to plug in some of those areas where they lost talent to other teams. With some pretty talented players in their own right. So this Green Bay team is returning some production, but getting some help from other teams. And as with all of these IFL teams, you have to get production out of your rookies that have never played the game before. And Coach Roberson is one of the very best at getting the most out of those young players.
Yeah, I mean, he's going on what we think it's like year 8 up there in Green Bay. So yeah, super experienced, been around for a long time, and really led that franchise for many, many years. And this recent string of success with like back-to-back Eastern Conference or championship appearances is really important. And then as you look at it, it is that consistent performance year over year is really good. But again, it's hard for any team in any sport to lose the kind of production that they lost and maintain at that high level.
Yeah, I mean, you look at like we touched on this like right before we went live, how Max Mailer and Kimo Clark, not just Max Mailer. I think Kimo Clark is a massive loss for this Green Bay team, where the ground attack for Green Bay was so impressive last year. Where, all right, you're gonna put 2 on Max, Kimo's gonna get you. You're gonna put 2 on Kimo, all right, yeah. Max is gonna get you. So you were damned if you do, damned if you don't last year, and both of them are gone. That's a ton of production.
Right. This is a top 5 offense, both passing and rushing.
Yeah.
Through yards, touchdowns, just about every metric, you know, and the defense gave up points in bundles, you know, gave up close to 50 points a game last season. But, you know, they were scoring plenty of points. So the defense just has to get better now this year. And that's going to be challenging. They didn't force a ton of turnovers last year. So these are just the questions. Can the defense get better to make up for the lack of offensive production?
Yeah. 2024, this Green Bay defense was number 1 in the IFL. They were unreal. I think they had several games where they gave up less than 30 points, which is insane in this high-paced 50-yard game.
Absolutely. Yeah,
and they were
against like a competent team to give up less than 30, to hold them under 30 is just mind-blowing.
Yeah, and they were just doing it the old school way of bully ball in 2024 on defense. But then the tides turned for Green Bay, where last year they had the number one offense and the defense was trying to keep up. So they went from number one defense, absolute slugfest, where in 2024 there were two absolutes: Green Bay unders and San Antonio overs. Those were the two things you could always lean on. But then that script got totally flipped in 2025, where they scored 70 plus, I think, on three different occasions, at least two last year. So they were just so potent. So what's it going to be this year? Are they going to be an offensive team with a defense that is keeping up? Are they going to be a defensive team with an offense that keeps up? Are they going to be somewhere in the middle? I don't know. It's going to be an interesting year to see how they grow.
Yeah. I mean, and they certainly have their work cut out for them. They're getting featured here opening weekend in the Hall of Fame game. They're hosting the Hall of Fame game with Vegas coming to, I believe, yes, they're hosting it with Vegas coming to town in a rematch of the championship game. And this Vegas team, they're not going to play. They came ready to go.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we go from one experienced coach in Corey Roberson to another very experienced coach and Coach Mike Davis, coming off that 2025 IFL National Championship game. He has built this Vegas Nighthawks program from the ground up. He's been there since the beginning. And you want to talk about another team that got absolutely gashed by, we talked about the call-ups at CFL and UFL, and other indoor and arena teams kind of poached this roster a bit. So he was able to retain some of the talent from last year, but he's bringing in a lot of new pieces and familiar faces from around the 50-yard game to help, pick up where they left off last year. And you look at the quarterback position, bringing back Jaden DeLaura from last year, the IFL National Championship game MVP. That's a great place to start, right? Jaden DeLaura was very, very good last season. And can he consistently do what he did in the playoffs all throughout a 16-game season? Can he stay healthy for the duration of a 16-game season? I think that'll be a key for Vegas here. You look at the wide receiver spot, Quentin Randolph, all IFL wide receiver last year, but then it doesn't stop there. You got Deshaun Stoudemire out on the outside coming over from Northern Arizona last year, where he was electric when that offense was clicking. They got good O-line, good D-line. This Vegas team is going to be very, very good yet again. But how can they get some production out of their rookies that we may not know them as household IFL names now?
Yeah.
But this time next year, we
don't
will
know them yet.
Yeah, exactly. They certainly will. Yeah.
And, it's just really interesting that Jaden DeLaura really took over this offense last year with how good Jerome Johnson was the year prior and, with what he's done previously. And DeLaura just was able to get it done in so many ways, whether it was through the air or on the ground. I mean, you look at that game last year against the Strike Force, he threw for 7 touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get to a championship game where he runs for 70. Oh, Trey cracked his
Yeah.
We didn't do the check-in.
Yeah, I forgot to crack it. I realized as you were talking, I was like, "Oh, dang, I got to do this." Sorry, I'm sorry.
What you drink? What you drinking?
I got a big juicy bear hug.
Ooh,
Imperial IPA.
Fun.
That's a big boy.
Oh, IPAs. Oh, okay, you're one of those people. Good.
I'm not. That's the thing. I'm not, but I'm trying.
I have a non-alcoholic but still delicious hop water peach flavor.
There you go.
Spectacular.
There you go.
So
okay, I'm sorry to interrupt your flow.
That's okay. No, that's okay. We missed the celebratory crack at the beginning. Yeah. But I think Jaden DeLaura is just so emblematic of what you want in an IFL quarterback. He's going to he's not going to let the defense get comfortable and take away one way for him to produce. He can produce through the air, he can produce on the ground, and he's going to do a great job either way. He reminds me a lot of Max Mailer in that regards, where Max is going to beat you through the air or he's going to beat you on the ground. And he can do both with regularity. And you have to not just be aware of him. You got to just stay aware of him. That's the biggest thing. And it's hard to do that. It's hard to contain a quarterback on every single play and keep them in check on every single play.
Yeah. And I think what Jaden brought to this offense last year was a little bit higher of a floor than what Jerome Johnson brought to the offense, where the ceiling has always been high in Vegas with what can be done. I think where Jaden really excelled was he was able to take care of the ball a little bit more. And that is ultimately what Vegas needed to be able to get over the hump towards the end there. But continuing on the offense, you want to look at last year. Antonio Wimbush was unbelievable for this Vegas offense and special teams last year. He's getting the opportunity in the CFL, so that left a pretty big hole at the running back spot. So naturally, Vegas goes out and gets the 2025 IFL Offensive Player of the Year to fill in that hole. And Josh Tomas coming over from Bay Area. So it seems like they're losing a ton of production, but they're also gaining a ton at the same time while keeping consistency at those core positions. I think if we're looking at an area where we might want to proceed with caution with Vegas, I think it might be in the secondary where they have a ton of young players who may not necessarily be fully up to speed on what the indoor game brings, especially as a defensive back. So they have the veteran in Clifton Duck coming over from a stint overseas last year and a little bit of time with San Antonio. He's going to be the guy that they lean on a ton in that secondary. Hopefully this defensive line can continue to put in work like they did last year to help make the secondary's lives a little bit easier. But I think the DBs are going to be an area where we want to pay close attention to.
Yeah. I mean, and even on the defensive line, I think he's still on the roster. Marquise Lawson-Greenwood was an absolute stud in 2024 for the Southwest Kansas Storm, double-digit sacks in that weird AFL season. Signed with Albany to start last year, got signed to the UFL, spent last season with the Renegades, and he's just really an explosive game wrecker off the edge. So he's also at that size where you can play him in multiple positions. You're going to be in a tough spot if you play him over the nose, but you could, or you can play him at linebacker or edge, and he's going to have the ability to wreak havoc. And especially with the opening up of the defensive line rules, you're going to see these talented defensive linemen shine a lot more than they have in years prior.
Yeah, Lawson Greenwood's a great one, and you pair him with somebody like Lorenzo Hernandez on the defensive line, who absolutely crushed it last season and was one of the reasons why this Vegas team was able to be so successful down the stretch. They were able to put a ton of pressure on the quarterback, and they were able to make things happen. And it starts with the defensive line, and I just can't emphasize enough how much the defensive line is going to be what makes or breaks this Vegas season, in my opinion. Where if they can get pressure on the quarterback and be disruptive, help out that secondary, they'll be in a good spot. But if they regress a little bit, we might be in for a tougher season than we think.
Yeah, but again, even if the offense does regress, they have a defense that's going to make play, or they have an offense that's going to make plays. I don't think they're going to regress too much under DeLaura. So I'm comfortable Vegas being in kind of my top tier of teams to start this year.
100%. Yeah. Yeah. And I think a key thing, I'm curious if he makes it all the way through, because, we were looking through some rosters. We were having a little bit of hard time confirming a few things here and there. But if kicker Gabriel Rui is with Vegas this upcoming season, coming over from Iowa, Gabe Rui is a stud at kicker. He was able to keep Iowa in a lot more games than they deserve to be, even in the conversation of last year, through deuce attempts, through field goals. And so you bring that to this Vegas team who struggled at the kicker position early on last year, but found their way when they eventually landed with Ben Derby. Gabe Rui is going to be a baller.
No, I mean, that's huge when you think about it. Just the ability to put points on the board even when you stall out. Because in reality, once you're over like your own 10, if you stall out and you have a good kicker, you can think about putting points on the board as soon as you you can think on, if you're stuck on your goal line, I mean, you can try. The only reason you're not going to try from back there is the shorter snap, and you're going to throw everybody's timing off. But it's doable. But you're probably going to want to be up a little further. So being in range, always the free 2 points on the deuce, because that's what it is. It's a free 2 points. If you can hang 2 points on the board for no cost after a touchdown and turn a 7-8 point play into a 10-point play, that's a huge swing. And that's just something that you need teams to be capitalizing on and taking advantage of. And a strong kicker really can make the difference there, because those points add up very quickly, particularly when you're losing a lot of close games, which they did last year. I mean, they lost some very tight games in Vegas that ended up putting them, I don't think they were the 2 seed last year, I believe. Yeah, they were second in the Western Conference last year. Yeah. losing key games. You know, they lost to Bay Area by 1 in July. A 1-point loss with a better kicker hits 1 deuce. 1 deuce is the difference there.
Yeah. Yeah. There's just, and I think the underrated thing to think about with this is not only do you get the 2 points, but you pin them at the 5-yard line to start the drive.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they return that kick. They're getting to the 10, 15, maybe the 20, maybe midfield if the guy's dynamic enough.
Yeah, you contain that. You put the offense back. You make them play on the longer field. It's just the deuce. There's a reason everybody gets excited about the deuce.
100%. Yeah. Yeah. If you have someone that can pick up those free points, it's like picking up loose change. Like you're walking down the sidewalk. Oh, free quarter. Oh, free quarter. You pick up enough quarters, you get $1. Right. So it's one of those things where that if the kicker can connect on those, it's an entirely different ballgame.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Vegas and Green Bay playing this. We'll come back. We'll do picks at the end.
Okay.
We'll do picks at the end. Heading over to the East now for this showdown between the Fishers Freight. Fishers 6th in the conference, missed the playoffs last year, 7-9. Head coach Dixie Wooten. A team that, like we talked about, started with some trouble adjusting in the early going, and then they finally found a quarterback in Felix Harper who kind of helped them steady the ship, and that went a long way for them. Veteran quarterback, been around a lot of systems. Dixie Wooten's very familiar with him, which helps. Knowing what your coach knowing you is very helpful for any quarterback, and the quarterback knowing the system also is very helpful as well.
Yeah, this offense for Fishers, they started off 2-0 last year, and it was like, hey, what do you know? We might have something here. Like, all right, Fishers expansion team, let's go. And then they ripped off 9 losses in a row, and it was like, okay, what are we doing here? What is this? And it all started with the quarterback position. They had a couple of quarterbacks who were able to run the ball really well, but the creation of the forward pass over the past 80 years has progressed football to a certain point, and you need to be able to, unless you're Army or Navy, you could just run the ball all the way down the field every single play, right? But in majority
triple
of
option
offenses,
is tough in the 50-yard game.
it's tough, but not impossible, right? It's tough, but not impossible. But once Felix Harper kind of got in the mix, he was really the straw that stirred the drink for this Fishers offense, and the Fishers defense was able to capitalize on a lot of things last year, and they're returning a ton of production on both offense and defense. Just running down the line here, Felix Harper at quarterback, and then this running back duo is a true thunder lightning combination with Josiah King being the lightning and Dominic Roberto being the thunder, where Harper and Roberto both started in Massachusetts last year and ended up in Fishers. And so it's a dynamic combination of no matter what combination of those three are on the field, it's a good one for this Fishers team. And JT Stokes coming back, and then you add in a wide receiver from this IFL National Championship team in Vegas last year, CJ Wyndham, to pair opposite of JT Stokes. You've got 2 big, tall, strong wide receivers on the outside with a running game that can hit you on the inside. It's almost like a pick your poison. Who are you going to cover? Because it seems like no matter what you do, no matter what you choose, it's the wrong answer.
No, and Josiah Wright is the dynamic kind of player that you can spread out, get him in space, have him catch the ball out of the backfield. He's a good crisp route runner as well. He spent some time before coming over last year in Corpus Christi, played well there. Again, made a lot of plays, athletic, good breakaway speed. Less of a fit in the arena game. The indoor game, though, going to be more of a fit with the space he can operate in. So that's really good for them. And again, this is a team that if they, with Felix Harper under center, they looked like a much better team.
Yeah.
So I think to start the year, they'll look more like the team that started last year. I mean, there's a stretch where, what was it? They were going through quarterbacks like every week. There was like a 3-week stretch because I remember I was like, oh, that guy's there. Oh, that guy's there. It was like the all journeyman team. Your quarterback situation is you're having an adventure with it if Vincent Espinoza pops up mid-year. Vince plays. Vince is a veteran, solid 50-yard game quarterback.
Yeah.
But, if he hasn't found a home and he's just popping up places, you're having a year. And he did. I mean, he had that Hail Mary to beat the Blizzard last year, which was great to see.
Yeah.
But Felix Harper just stabilized the ship just a little bit more. Dixie Wooten really trusts him. Again, that knowledge and experience really help.
Yeah, there was a running joke with Fishers where there was a stretch of about 5 or 6 weeks where the quarterback that started the game was not going to be the quarterback that ended the game. It was like clockwork. It was like at some point they're going to make the switch, and it happened every single week for a stretch. And it's hard to win football games like that, right? So, finding Felix Harper was just so key for this offense to stabilize, like you mentioned. But I think one of the strengths of this Fishers team, beyond even what we've talked about already, is on the offensive and defensive line. This offensive line, if you want to look up some of these players, there are some large humans on this offensive line. You start looking at Navon Donaldson. I think he's at 6'7", 340 pounds. I think LaQuinston Sharp is at 6'1", 310. So they've got some behemoths on this offensive line that can move people around and move the pile. But then you look on the defensive line, it might be one of the nastiest groups in all of indoor and arena football, with Jalen Swan leading the way, and they can get after the quarterback. They can be disruptive on special teams. This D-line can do it all.
I mean, you look at how good they were running the ball last year. They averaged 15 yards per game more than the second place team. And they ran for the most touchdowns last year. They were the only team to rush for over 2,000 yards in 16 games. Just that's the sign of a dominant offensive line. The fact that with all those changes, you are still making it happen. But then, I mean, again, you talk about it defensively. Fisher's first in sacks, 22 sacks last year, 17 turnovers, and they were really stingy defensively. They were second in the league in defensive yards per game. Now, that didn't translate as well to a points per game that you'd want to see. But again, they went through a rough stretch there where they were getting bounced around and beat up. So if your offense is turning the ball over all the time, giving that good field position,
exactly,
you're going to give up points without giving up yards. But the fact that they're so good at getting after the quarterback with a better offense, this team's going to win more games and be right in the thick of that playoff hunt, which is sure to be crowded again in both conferences. I mean, you look at the standings from last year, and there were just everybody was in the mix. You had a lot of teams that were 7-9. You had 2 7-9 teams in the East, 3 10-6, and 11-5. And in the West, you had four teams that were above 500, 3 teams under 500. So you have a lot of parity right now in the IFL, which makes for exciting football.
Yeah. And you look at Fishers, like down the stretch, they had a rough middle of the season, but with 2 weeks to go, they were technically alive in the playoff hunt, which is crazy to think that, like, man, they had a 9-game losing streak, and they still have a fighter's chance. They needed a lot of things to bounce their way, obviously, and it didn't end up happening. But you just think, like, man, if they could have stabilized this offense 2 games earlier, just righted the ship a little bit earlier, they're in the mix, they're in the hunt, and they could have been in that 4th playoff position and potentially made some noise.
Yeah, I mean, they lost 3 games by less than a touchdown. They lost to Massachusetts on a field goal. They lost to Quad City by 7, and they lost to the Sharks by 6. So you got 3 one-score games. So if you reverse those odds in those 3 games, all of a sudden you're looking at a 10-6 team, and you're in the playoffs, or you're at least in the hunt for the playoffs. You need tiebreakers to get in over Jacksonville, but it's not unreasonable because now you've split this. It's just getting very in the weeds, but Dixie Wooten, again, experienced coach, been around the block more than a few times and knows what he's doing.
Yeah, and he has that championship pedigree. He knows what it takes to be successful in the IFL in particular. You go back a few years ago when he took over as co-head coach for the Bay Area Panthers. That's one of the best teams we've seen in the IFL this decade, was that Bay Area Panthers team that he was co-head coaching with Rob Keefe in 2023. And so what he's able to do, not just on the field, but establish a culture from the very beginning. He's a 2-time coach of the year with the Iowa Barnstormers in 2017 and 2018. So he's been around this game. He knows what it takes to be successful. And it seems like towards the end of the year, everyone was pulling the rope in the same direction in Fishers. So can they start off with the same momentum that they ended 2025 with they got to get off to a strong start because this Eastern Conference is going to be an absolute gauntlet down the stretch. And the teams that get off to a strong start obviously are going to have a bit of a leg up versus the teams that kind of stumble out of the gate.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and they're starting against a tough team, kicking off the season against Quad City. Quad City was a spectacular team, and they lost a tough battle in the Eastern Conference Finals, and they said, screw it, we're gonna get even better and just terrify everybody, because Quad City might be the best team in the IFL this season. Like they're going to be, if everything's clicking like we all think it should be, they're going to be absolutely terrifying.
Yeah, this team they played a lot of bully ball last year with Daquan Neal at quarterback, Jared Ware at running back. That was a dynamic combination where it's where all the teams that are successful in the IFL, they usually have a you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't conflict that they create for defenses. And that's what Daquan Neal and Jared Ware were for this team, where Daquan Neal was able to tuck it and not just run effectively, but he was able to move a pile. Like if you tried to tackle him with one person, he was getting at least another 3 or 4 yards. So it was something where like there were times where he'd initiate contact at the line, but still gain the first down. And so he's just such a powerful runner. But with that comes the wear and tear of a 16-game season, where he missed a couple games in the middle of the season, and they dropped a couple that they probably should have won if Daquan was around. So I think that's a bit of an asterisk. You want to look at this Quad City team. Can he get a healthy 16 out of them? But you mentioned being able to just build on this roster and get even better than, making it to the Eastern Conference Championship last year and hosting it. They went ahead and said, you know what? Our offense was pretty good last year. Let's just go ahead and sign the number 1 wide receiver in the IFL from 2025.
Yeah,
who led the league in catches, receiving yards, and touchdowns. Let's just sign that guy and add him in the mix. Let's just see what happens.
I mean, and this is a team that was 3rd in yards per completion, 10th in passing yards per game, 7th in passing touchdowns. Like Daquan Neal against Green Bay in the Eastern Conference Finals threw for 7 or 6 touchdowns. So he can sling it through the air just as well as he can run it on the ground. So, and now you give him an even better receiver.
Yeah, this receiver core is nasty, and so it's something where it's like, all right, you got 3 really talented receivers on the field, no matter what combination they throw out there. You've got 3 studs out there, and then you got Jared Ware at running back. It's almost like you need an extra defender out there to make sure all your bases are covered. But I think if you're looking for an area where you might have some pause when looking at Quad City, it might be on the offensive line. You got Joe Crawl in the middle, all IFL center, electric, stone cold Crawl, crushes beers after a home win, just like Stone Cold Steve Austin. It's incredible. Go watch some clips if you haven't already. But I think some of the switch up that they've had on the O-line this offseason, that's going to be the area that I'm really, really interested in looking at, especially for this upcoming game against Fishers, where they have a nasty defensive line. How are they going to do against this O-line that they're trying to kind of not piece together, but just kind of find something that works, find a new combination from last year?
And as it starts right now, I mean, there's no depth on the offensive line currently on this roster, at least that I can see listed. There's 3 offensive linemen, that's it, which means somebody's either swinging both ways on the defensive line just in case, or they've got somebody they're bringing in. That could very well be the case, but it's just one of those things where you have to be ready for this, and all the receivers and quarterbacks in the world don't make up for it if your offensive line can't keep Neal upright. The positive is Neal has the athleticism to escape still. I mean, Daquan Neal's been around for the longest time, and he's just been good at every level. He's been spectacular wherever he's played. I mean, all the way back, whether it was the IFL, back when he was in Bay Area, played great. So it's exciting times to be a Quad City Steam Wheelers fan.
Yeah, they had an incredible 2025 season. They're looking like they're they're going to have an even better 2026. And you look at the defensive side of the ball, their D-line is looking really, really good with Keyshawn Moore. He's an animal on the defensive line. Chima Dunga, one of the best names in indoor football. He's disruptive on that D-line. And this defensive back group for Quad City is also a bunch of hitters too, where they got people who are not afraid to initiate contact. And typically you think of defensive backs, you think of some more finesse guys that may not be fully invested in hitting, but you look at Malik Duncan, you look at Kevin Ransom, you look at Cameron Harrell. These are guys that are not afraid to lower the helmet and let you have it. Defensively, they're able to create some opportunities for this dynamic offense. So they complement each other really, really well. I think another area for Quad City in particular to highlight is they're losing Kyle Kaplan at kicker from last year, who, when he was hot, he was hitting deuces left and right, and he was just really running up the score for Quad City. But they're bringing in, I think you're a Syracuse guy, aren't you? Are you not, Adam?
Yeah.
So I think, is it Jan Bogdan? I think that's how you pronounce it.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, so he's on the roster for this Quad City team. So I'm interested to see how can he make that transition to the indoor game, and can he be as nearly as impactful as Kyle Kaplan was at times? Because that could be something where that absence from Kaplan might be felt a little bit deeper than we may be giving it credit for.
Yeah, I mean, Jan Bogdan never really played for the Orange. Was originally a soccer recruit. Big leg. Maybe we're looking at a guy who comes out and makes that conversion. It'll be interesting to see how he does here, because he's obviously got a big leg. We'll see. Big leg is good because it means you got deuces and you're in range, but can he split the uprights, which are even smaller in the indoor game?
Yeah, a big leg is good, but you need an ounce of finesse in there at the same time to truly be impactful.
Yeah. So we kind of talked about it a little bit, but who do you got winning each of these games? Quad City and Fishers, obviously. Not obviously. Quad City and Fishers is opening the weekend on Saturday on Yahoo Sports, Saturday at 5 Eastern. So who you think is coming out on top in that one?
I think this game is as close to a toss-up as you can possibly get, which is saying something considering how well the Quad City roster has come together. But I think that's a tip of the cap to how well the Fishers roster has also come together, right? So you're looking at two teams that are going to be strength on strength, but it seems like one of those games where if you play it 10 times, Quad City wins 5, or Fishers wins 5, right? They're just so evenly matched here, but it seems like Fishers might have the advantage on the defensive line in the matchup with the offensive line for Quad City. So I don't know, man. My heart says Quad City. My head leans Fishers. I'm curious what the lines are going to look like for this when the lines eventually drop for this upcoming weekend. Because
I was just looking to see if I could find lines for this, but I'm not seeing any yet. Yeah. I think the thing is I don't think it's necessarily a toss-up. I think just Quad City, I feel better about Quad City's ability to put points on the board. Felix Harper's solid, but Taquan Mule is much better than Felix Harper, and he has a supporting cast that's going to make a difference. I think that in the first game, it's going to be tough for the defensive line to make a huge impact right off the rip, especially as we're exploring some of these new rules along the defensive line. And we've referenced that. Trey, can you kind of talk about how those I know you went in depth with those. So can you kind of explain how those defensive line rules changed this year for the IFL?
Yeah, so heading into last season, the biggest change for the IFL was the relaxing of the stunt and twist rules, where you think of stunting and twisting in the outdoor game, like say these are the 3 linemen, defensive end here, stunts around and goes around, and they're able to get creative on the defensive line. That wasn't a thing in the IFL. They had rules specifically prohibiting that. That was an illegal defense penalty that bailed out a ton of offenses in 2024 and beyond. So that change in 2025 really enabled the defensive linemen to pin their ears back and really get after the quarterback. But I think the biggest change for this year in 2026 is at the linebacker spot, where one of the biggest changes is also what was an illegal defense penalty in 2025 was the linebacker has to be 5 yards off the line of scrimmage. And if they leaned before the snap, it was a penalty. you could not move at all. But now the rule is the feet have to be stationary. So if you're falling forward a little bit, you're leaning a little bit at the snap, it's no longer a penalty. So I think you might see linebackers get a little more aggressive this upcoming season because they know they have a little bit more leeway than they did in 2025.
Yep. And is that both linebackers or are most teams just rocking with one linebackers? I'll admit my IFL knowledge is lower because I've been very engrossed in the arena game the last 2 years.
For the most part, you see teams rock with one linebacker. Occasionally you see teams rock with two, but majority of the time it's the one guy in there that's the designated blitzer. He puts his hand up before the play, and the referee indicates, all right, this guy's the blitzer. Of course, the closer you get to the end zone, it condenses. You probably get a bigger body in there, but more times than not, you're going to see the one linebacker.
Right, the one linebacker and then 4 DBs on the field. So you're seeing man coverage and a safety over the top, which is why you see, and that's why you see a little bit more running happening in the IFL than you do in the AF1. Yeah. And similarly in the NAL, because the NAL code is more aligned with the IFL. So just some subtle differences there where you see running backs impacting the game more.
Yeah, and I think if you want to even take it a step further, you look at the defensive box of the IFL. The way to think about it with the IFL is they keep people out of the box at the beginning of the play. You look at the arena style; they keep people in the box, right? So it's more people close to the line of scrimmage. So in that traditional arena game, it's more deep balls, it's more passing, it's more pass. But in that indoor game, it's a lot more even. It's not uncommon to see a 50-50, 60-40 split. And it keeps defenses honest at the same time.
No, it really does. And I joke, it does sometimes allow the offenses to pick up kind of empty calorie yards and run up against it down around the goal line. But teams are getting better at converting when they get to the red zone. And so, red zone possessions matter. If you're going to move the ball up and down the field, you still got to get in. So, Trey is taking Fishers. I'm taking Quad City in this one. So we're on opposite sides of that. And then on Sunday, we got the Hall of Fame game up in Green Bay. That is a 4 p.m. Eastern kickoff on Sunday, March 15th. And you can watch that on the Overnight Network. So, Trey, I'll go first. I think we're going to be aligned on this one. I've got Vegas winning this one, and I think they're going to win this one pretty handily. Green Bay, like we talked about, just got absolutely gutted. And I think they're going to have some trouble coming out of the gate. They may get it together down the stretch, but I think Vegas has the horses, has the players to just make another run at repeating as IFL champions.
Yeah, Vegas is a lot more week one ready than Green Bay is. And I think that's what this comes down to. You got QB1 and wide receiver 1. That's enough of a combination where Quentin Randolph was outstanding last season, all IFL first team last year. And if he's able to do even a little bit of what he did last year for this Vegas team, he's going to be incredible. So yeah, I definitely have Vegas, but here's an interesting little tidbit for those that dabble in the gambling, perhaps. I know you're of that ilk, Adam.
Of that ilk, you make it sound like we're in a speakeasy or something. This is a very socially accepted thing to do, Trey, is gamble on sports. It's not like your ilk. Like, what is it next? Are we gonna go get a sody pop and you're gonna talk to me about, the virtues of I don't even
listen.
know.
I already touched on the invention of the forward pass 80 years ago, so I'm kind of in that mindset.
You're in an old school mindset. You're gonna go watch some Leatherheads to really get in the mood.
Yes, that's right. Well, fun little piece of not trivia, but a little factoid for you. Week 1 unders are undefeated in the IFL over the past 3 years.
I'm curious what the over-unders will look like. I need to keep an eye out to see if when we get lines, and then get in on that action, because I enjoy, as people of my ilk, as Trey would say. I have been known to place a wager every now and again, so I'm going to be curious to see what that looks like. Maybe the unders have corrected. Maybe the over-unders have corrected, because at least Fishers, Quad City, these are two high-scoring teams. So I'm really curious. That feels like it should be like a 75-point over under, or I think that's going to be a 40 something to 40 something game. So if it's under 80, I'm going to be all over the over because I think both these offenses are going to show up. And I don't know. Green Bay is just such a big question mark for me that I can't make an accurate prediction about scoring there. So probably like a mid 60s over under. They might be a little high. If it's over 70, I'd consider the under just because I think Green Bay is going to struggle offensively.
Yeah, it feels like if I'm knowing how the lines worked last year, it feels like both of these lines are probably going to come out in the low to mid 80s as they kind of figure some things out. And I think those are both very, very high for this. So
that 80s right about 80s right for the Fishers Quad City game.
Yeah, for Vegas Green Bay, if it's 82 and a half, 83 and a half, I'm probably leaning under. I'm
under all the way down to 75 probably is my honest answer.
Yeah, so there you go. Vegas and the under. That's what we heard.
Trey, we're gonna have to see. I have a strong history of chasing sports books off of their niche sports line and having them reset them. So we'll see if I can continue that with my IFL predictions here.
Yeah, for sure.
That kind of wraps up our IFL. We talked a little bit here, just kind of end of season predictions for each of these four teams. I think three of these four teams are definitely in the playoff hunt. We got four teams in the playoff. I definitely think Vegas, Quad City, and Fishers are going to be in the hunt. Quad City and Vegas are probably going to be battling for a number one seed. Fishers is going to be in the thick of it in the East, and Green Bay, I don't feel confident in them right now. That could change. They're a team with questions, but I don't feel good about Green Bay right now.
Yeah, Green Bay is a big time wild card where I could see them going 6-10, and I'm like, all right, that makes sense. I could see them going 11-5 and be like, all right, that makes sense. Like, it just depends on how the production that they lost last year gets replaced. And Liam Thompson in limited action last year looked pretty good running the ball, but I just want to see a lot more out of him throwing the ball. So this Eastern Conference is going to be a gauntlet. I agree with you. I think 3 of the 4 teams will end up making the playoffs. And a little teaser for tomorrow's Off the Wall, which is an IFL preview, and we've got Jared Whitman on the program talking about some of the offseason streaming news from the IFL. I believe one of these teams will be in the IFL National Championship. Now, which team? Tune in to find out. Like, comment, subscribe.
He's got to say that. It could very well be both of these teams if we're being honest. But Max Mailer went to Arizona, so Vegas's life got a lot more difficult.
Yeah.
So, and we should, I know we're running long here, but it's preview season, so these are going to be beefy episodes anyways. We need to talk about the NAL. We had some opening action last weekend in the NAL. We were texting during those games. Colorado and Pueblo was a great game.
Very good.
Watch that. That was very entertaining. It was exactly what we thought. And Louisiana and Amarillo, as I said, I need to go back and rewatch that one because that game was cooked. The Rougarou looked like trash. And then they made a quarterback change. I couldn't tell who started. I had it muted because I was doing other things at the same time. So who started? Was it Morton or was it William Waters who started for them?
It was on my quad box at the beginning, so I had the volume off as well. I think Walters started, but then I think he got knocked out early, and so that was part of the reason why the Rougarou offense was having a hard time finding their footing until the end there, where suddenly they turned it on, came back from being down 26-6 to tie the game with 17 seconds left. It was a pretty crazy ending, considering the first half Amarillo was just smacking them around. In that fourth quarter, Louisiana found something that worked and were able to make a game of it.
Yeah, I think Larry Moten finished the game for Louisiana, and that really turned it around. I mean, his rushing ability was really what made the difference there. Less passing offense than I would have thought. But Amarillo, Tylen Shaw looked good.
Looked
played
pretty good.
Well.
Yeah,
that was great to see. So, and then I think the other big thing that stood out to me in that game is just Amarillo's defense initially played really well. Mike Pillow Smiley had a sack. That was really good to see. There was a lot of good like you said, back and forth action. Just very odd to see it swing that much. But the game that was really the better of the two games was the Pueblo versus Colorado game. And former NFL quarterback Paxton Lynch throws for 4 touchdowns, outdueled by Josh Hollins of Pueblo throwing 5. He just had an absolutely spectacular game. Joel Shaw had a spectacular day for the Punishers as well. 100 yards receiving, 3 rushing touchdowns, just spectacular day for him.
Yeah, Joel Shaw was electric in that game. He was any time they needed something, he gave it. And I was really impressed with the play calling from Clint Solomon, who is no stranger to the 50-yard game, both as a player and as a coach. I was really impressed with his red zone offense. He was like in NAL, you're allowed to have 2 receivers in motion. He was only using 1 receiver in motion. He was having one of his guys in the backfield as a fullback, and they were going heavy with the formations. And they'd have wide receiver in motion as like a lead block, fullback leading the way for Joel Shaw, and he was able to juke and jive into the end zone. And even in the passing game, you mentioned it, 100 yards receiving. He was just getting it done on all levels, and him and Hollins are a crazy combo.
A 5 touchdown game for Joel Shaw is spectacular.
So
2 through the air, 3 on the ground, and Aaron Dilworth 2 catches for 2 touchdowns. Spectacular. And I'm really curious if this combo of Lex Rosario and Paxton Lynch can continue to grow. Also, surprisingly, I didn't notice this earlier, but Brian Robinson is on the Spartans roster, which is, I think that's the Brian Robinson who played in Orlando 2 years ago. He did some stuff for them. Brian Robinson's a dude. Like, this is one of the fun things about the NAL is guys just kind of pop up for a weekend. Brian Robinson played well for the Orlando Predators to open 2024. So seeing him back in the fold is really good. And Steven Newbold also had a solid game. So lots of options for Paxton Lynch, and potentially as he continues to get his feet under him, that could really emerge, because they started kind of slow, let Pueblo get out in front, and then they made a game of it. They battled back.
I thought Paxton Lynch looked pretty good, all things considered. Like I was worried about his adjustment to the indoor game, but he got it done up through the air and on the ground. I think Colorado's going to be fine. I think they just on defense, you could tell they were just a little discombobulated. They were just a little bit off. Like Pueblo is getting wide open on some of those plays where it's like, okay, we weren't seeing this last year in Colorado. So I think that they'll make some adjustments on the defensive side of the ball, and I think Paxton Lynch will be fine. Towards the back half of the game, he kind of started to piece together like, hey, this Lex Rosario guy's pretty good. Let me just keep giving him the ball.
Yeah, let me feed my best receiver.
Yeah, and so like the offense was chugging down the field the more they got Rosario involved. So I think this Colorado team will be fine. But Pueblo just starting off white hot. They got Omaha next week, so Colorado, Omaha back to back. What a way to introduce yourself to the.
We'll know how good Pueblo is after next.
We will know 100%. Yeah,
and similarly, we'll have a better idea about Amarillo this week as they head down to Sioux City. We'll know more about Louisiana as they play host to Southwest Kansas, and we'll find out what's going on with the Dallas Bulls as they play host to the Colorado Spartans. We're not even going to talk about the non-league nonsense. Trey wrote a wonderful piece about that. Please go read that if you haven't. Really summed up and codified many people's thoughts on the non-league nonsense that the NAL that the NAL has to help the teams fill its schedule out. Because 101-0 is just that we don't need that. Like we don't need that foolishness.
I'm gonna count that as your off the field comment. That's how ridiculous.
I think that was an off field. I think that was an off field comment. It was a protracted off field comment. It wasn't a one off this time.
That's your one.
But I will second everything Trey said as our one off the field comment. So we got a double dip at games this weekend. That's exciting. My wife's working this weekend, so that means I can, we're going to have TV, laptop, everything rocking and rolling with all these games this weekend. I'm excited. So yeah, and anything else you plugged? You got your IFL preview with Jared dropping tomorrow. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Love that. And we'll be back next week with part 2 of our IFL preview. We'll do part 3 after that. We're just going to do each of the teams as they debut, and then we'll have 2 leagues rocking and rolling. We'll be in a recap session, and we'll get an AF1 preview eventually. You know, we might try to get some guests on here as well to talk ball as we just kind of evolve in this. So thank you all for tuning in. If you have anything you want to see us talk about, or you want anything, remember, on field only, ladies and gentlemen.
On the field only. That's
field
right.
only. We don't do off-field nonsense here on Arena Football Weekly. Drop it in the comments. Let us know, and go get some merch so Trey and I can get beers when we go to games. So
Let's do it.
there we go. All right. That's about it. So we will see y'all next week, and we'll do a better job. That's on me. We'll do a better job of getting these scheduled in advance so everybody knows when and where to find us.
Absolutely.
So, all right. We'll see y'all next week.
Yeah, you win some, you lose some, and sometimes you just mess it all up. So the CBS 7 kickoff is deep, and it's going to be off the net. It's going to be grabbed by Isaiah Scott. Isaiah Scott makes one man miss the end zone. Breaks it to the near side. Scott, 25, 20, 15, 10, 5, touchdown. Right.
Walks it right in. Play on that ball right over top of the defender. And more importantly,
See the replay here. He put Caleb Smith in motion with Jonathan Banks. Just do a little swing pass, and Caleb Smith with the rest.
on there. He's got a lane in the middle if he can get past him. And he might be good for a touchdown. There it is. And wow! Trayvon Sidney straight down the middle. Pulls a move on the kicker. And he's in the end zone for about 6